Okay, officially recording as of right now, and I believe you can still see my shared screen. PowerPoint, good to go. Okay, officially recording. All right, my name is Dr. Dustin McIver. It is nice to see all of you. Thanks for joining me tonight. We're going to get going on the perfect storm, which is the ADD, ADHD sensory processing workshop. So my goal is that you guys learn something here tonight. I am recording this, so I'm going to be sending it to everybody who either made it here or gave us their email saying that they wanted to be on this webinar but couldn't make it. You are going to be getting a link to this email. In this email, you are going to be getting a link to this, so you can send this to anybody. So you see down here at the bottom, it says the National Wellness Foundation. I am one of many chiropractors that does a talk. Not all of them call it the perfect storm, but we do talk similar about this subject. So if you sent this to somebody in Georgia and they watched this webinar and they said, I got to find a doc that does what he does to get my kiddo in to see them, we go on the National Wellness Foundation. There's a database of docs that we can look up, find somebody close to your area that practices in a similar way that I do, analyzes and assesses in a similar way that I do, so that we can find you somebody. So please, when you do get this in your email, if you got somebody in mind that you'd like to send them to, but they don't live anywhere near me, please send it to them. Let them watch it. We can find them somebody through the National Wellness Foundation. So let's jump right into this. Let me click. We are going to let me click. All right. So the plan tonight, awareness. Starting it off with awareness because I need to make you aware of something that is involved in this conversation, but that not a lot of people are talking about. And that is where I come in as a chiropractor and what makes my viewpoint on this whole subject a bit unique, because it is something that is definitely in the conversation, but nobody's talking about it. And we need to get more awareness to that. Therefore, we're going to give you answers as to what you need to actually be doing about this, and then the action steps to take part. So knowledge is power. If you don't know what you're looking for, it's pretty hard to find it. This is really delayed on this click. Or it just likes the mouse. All right, very quick history on me, because this is not about me, but I am from the east side of the state originally. Again, I can't assume you know where we are, because I don't know where you're going to be watching this from. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I'm originally from the east side of the state. I've been practiced over 5 years now. First location was just shy of 5 years, then we sold it. Got this place up and running July, so been in Grand Rapids little shy of a year now. So this is my big why, if you will. So this is my wife, Shauna, and my two little ones. Shauna is the love of my life. She has been with me pretty much through everything I can possibly think of. We met in high school. Didn't start dating until college, but met in high school, friends first, and then started dating in college. And pretty much anything that I've ever been through, anything that I've ever dealt with, she has been right by my side, and I can't honestly think of how it would look any differently. I don't think about it because it makes me sad. I don't want to think about what life would look like without her standing right next to me, because literally everything I have ever done, every accomplishment that I've ever achieved, she has been right there with me, helping me get through it. So I love her more than you can imagine. And she has given me two absolutely beautiful daughters. So my oldest, Tatum, who is going to be turning 5 here actually in like a week. What's the date? About a week. And then my youngest, who is 2.5, is Lachlan. So we have Tatum Kinley and Lachlan Kale. So the reason I say that these are my why is because I do not have children that are dealing with ADD, ADHD, sensory issues. But so many parents are. If I would have said in a room of 100 people sensory processing disorder a decade ago, 3 people might have even known what I was talking about. Now everybody knows what we're talking about. So many parents are struggling with kids that are having these sensory issues. And I mean, just this morning, Lachlan crying early in the morning to wake up. She's ready to get up, get out of bed. So I go into her room, pick her up. And first thing she does is she just gives me a big hug and then kisses me on the cheek and just says, "Love you, Daddy." And knowing that I was doing this talk tonight, I just thought about that and stopped for a second and thought, there are parents with kids so much older than my kids that have not gotten to experience that. They haven't gotten to experience their child to be able to verbally tell them that they love them because they're spectrum or whatever it may be. And that just breaks my heart, because the joy that I get seeing my little ones just thriving, knowing that there are families out there with kids that are really, really struggling and the toll that that takes on the family. So any way that I can possibly help, I want to do it. Which leads me to, why do I do this workshop? I do it for that reason. I don't really do this workshop for me because it's kind of a difficult workshop to do, for the simple fact is people look at it and go, ADD, ADHD, sensory, what in the world is a chiropractor even doing talking about this? You know, we get negative comments on Facebook if I do an ad, you know, promoting this, saying like, hey, parents, we're going to be doing a workshop. We'll get comments of just like, my kid doesn't have back pain, they're autistic, thank you very much. And then 5 minutes later, our video or whatever, our ad gets flagged for, you know, inappropriate or whatever it may be. So, but if I can help even a little bit in somebody's life, make that child's life better, make those parents' lives better, you know, be damned Facebook comments, you know, it's the internet, people are going to do what they do. But if I can help in any way, shape, or form, that fuels me, that makes me happy. So we're willing to kind of go through those muddy waters and kind of take some of that negative things and just push that aside if we know that we can help people at the end of the day. So that is my big why and why I do this talk. I do this to hopefully help some families and some kiddos in need. Alrighty, so we're going to start us off with an awareness test. So when we're talking ADD, ADHD, sensory issues, these kids' brains are just go, 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 go. So this is a video that can kind of show you what it's like to live in a state when your mind is just constantly go, 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 go. So in this video, there's going to be two teams, team in white, team in black. You're looking for the team in white and you're trying to count how many times they pass the ball. They're going to explain that too, but here we go.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Okay, so I really hope that there was audio on that. Not that you really needed it for that video because I got the microphone plugged in, so I don't hear anything through this computer. So I'm hoping that you heard it. But so yeah, I tricked you a little bit in saying like this is what kids' minds are like and things like that. And it is, but the awareness test is all about if you don't know to look for something, it is very, very easy to miss it. So what I want to do tonight is to start off with what the perfect storm is and showcase what the moonwalking bear is when it comes to this conversation. So awareness for me is, this is a big part of the conversation that nobody is talking about that plays right into my wheelhouse, but people don't even know to look for it, therefore they're not seeing it. And that's a huge problem when it comes to helping these kids out. So what is the perfect storm? Perfect storm, and you can really start in this perfect storm at any given time, but stress leads to stress. And when kids get stuck in this perfect storm, it's this never-ending cycle of stress, stress, stress. So at the end of the day, the perfect storm, we're talking stress. But I got to get you to understand that this is not stress like I'm stressed in a traffic jam, I'm stressed at work, I'm stressed in school, whatever it may be. We are talking stress from a neurological, physiological standpoint. I call it neurodegenerative strain. We're going to get way more into this. But when I'm talking to parents of little ones, of kiddos that are ADD, ADHD, sensory, we start all the way back to pregnancy. It's a known fact now. We just kind of keep finding more information the more we research this and the longer we go on. But any stress that mom is on, stress can therefore lead to stress in baby. So neurology is always king and queen, and a really, really stressed mom while growing a baby, that can actually lead into a very, very stressed baby. So that is where the perfect storm can start. And that's always a conversation that we have when mom brings a kiddo in to see me. We actually walk it all the way back to, tell me about pregnancy. Was there a move during your pregnancy? Was anything stressful going on? Because stress can lead to stress. Then our interventions during labor and delivery. This for me is your biggest moonwalking bear, and we're going to spend the most time talking about number two. So any intervention during the delivery process, whether the vacuum had to get used, the forceps, a C-section, the head was touched really in any way, shape, or form, can cause a lot of injury to the apex of the spine. We're going to get way more into this. I'm just setting the stage right now. But the apex of the spine, the top two bones of the neck, so the apex, the very, very top of your spine, is the most crucial area for a multitude of reasons, which we're going to get into, but it is also the most common area that is injured or damaged during interventions during the delivery process. Talk more about that in a second. So now we have stress from the delivery process, but it could started off, it could be stress during pregnancy, then a very stressful delivery, but now that leads to a stressed, colicky baby. Baby's having a hard time eating, having, acid reflux, can't nurse. What are babies supposed to be doing? Eating, sleeping, pooping. If they can't do those three things, guess what that is? Stressful to the system, and stress breeds stress. So now I go from a stressed, colicky baby. I'm going to put this away because I keep trying to hit the key and I need to click the mouse. Stressed, colicky baby therefore leads to a stressed, sick infant. So now we've kind of moved on from the colic, the things like that, to now we're having the ear infections. And so now we have a stress colic infant, which leads to now a sensory, maybe even a spectrum stuck child. We always say kids don't grow out of things. Kids just grow into the next phase of what that stuck, stressed pattern is presenting. So you hear people all the time go, oh, that was very, very colicky baby, had tons of acid reflux, was terrible nursing, but they grew out of that. But then we had, a terrible bout of ear infections. We had to do the tubes, we had to do all of that, but we grew out of that. But now we're dealing with some bedwetting issues and things like that, grew out of that, but now we're in school, having a hard time. They want to put them on Ritalin. It's the same stuck pattern. It's just manifesting differently as these kids get older. So the perfect storm, stress, stress, stress. But we need to go into what specifically, and I mean when we're actually talking about stress. So the function of the nervous system is to perceive the environment, coordinate the behavior of all other cells. So it's a little awkward doing a webinar type thing because you're not here and we can't interact. But usually when I do this in a live setting, I say, parents, of this quote, which word sticks out to you the most? And every parent says behavior. So if your nervous system, I already said nervous system is king and queen. If the nervous system is not functioning appropriately, is it going to perceive the environment accordingly? No. If the nervous system cannot perceive the environment appropriately, is it going to be able to coordinate the behavior of those cells? No. Are those cells therefore going to be behaving and doing what they're supposed to be? No. This is a very, very important quote. Bruce Lipton is responsible for several of my favorite quotes in all of healthcare, but this is a very simple yet a very powerful quote that I want you to understand. The function of the nervous system: look at the environment, decide who needs to be doing what, and then make those things do what they're designed to. But if that nervous system can't do its job appropriately, it's not looking at the world the way that it's supposed to. Therefore, it can't tell cells what to do accordingly. And then you have imbalance. Very, very good, very, very powerful quote. The next section, I did tell you during one of the videos leading up to this, get your notepads out. We're going to nerd out a little bit. I'm trying to not make it too overly, neurology and things like that, but you have to understand that there's a whole lot of neurology that goes into this. So we are going to skim the surface. I hope you got your notepads ready because I'm ready. All right. Dyskinesia. Dyskinesia, misalignment, and a fixation. So we're going to go over many D words. First one, dyskinesia. So something gets out of place, but the more important aspect of this is it gets stuck. So think about a door not hanging on its hinge appropriately. You can look at that door and you can tell that it is sitting askew. But now when you actually try to get that door functioning the way the door is supposed to, you start opening it, you start swinging it. Now it's hitting the floor. Now it's not hitting and closing the way it's supposed to. You got to kind of lift up. It's not working the way that it was designed. So dyskinesia is a misalignment followed by a fixation. Why is that important? Well, this is starting off the entire cascade that is that perfect storm. So motor development determines brain development. The brain loves movement. movement, movement, movement. It actually calms the brain down when things move. So now dyskinesia, things don't move appropriately. That's making the brain very, very unhappy. And when we have things motor-wise that don't take place, now we're not going to hit certain milestones in the brain development, which starts us off that journey of the perfect storm. So motor development determines brain development. Motion, motion, motion calms the brain. More on that here in a second. So pregnancy, birth, trauma. So I'm trying to decide where I should drag my little self to down here. I don't want to cover up that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I should just make myself go away completely. Well, now I'm gone. Where did I go? I don't know. You guys don't care if you see me, right? Need to go back though. I just clicked and slide.
Getting irritated.
No. I gotta warn you about that video. Hang on. All right, so pregnancy or the birthing process. This is bugging me that I can't see myself anymore. I shouldn't do this. Technical errors. I guess we're not seeing me. I can see Caitlin's not picture. Hi, Caitlin. I guess I'm back. I don't know, I'm just gonna stick me over here. I don't even know if you guys can see me in that little box. Let me know if you can.
Getting irritated.
Do not watch this. Everybody avert your eyes. What in the world is going on? All right, I'm not gonna click anything else. I would like to see the, all right, mind of its own. I'm not clicking. Chat. All right, you can see me. Good. Okay. Take my hands back to my coffee, not click anything, because I don't know why it just keeps freaking out. Pregnancy or birth trauma. So again, I told you, this is number 2 on that cascade of the perfect storm. This is my moonwalking bear. So trauma from a malposition, baby in mom still. Breech, transverse, sunny side up, you've heard all these. Even twins can obviously for, I don't have to explain that one to you, not as much room in there. So my other talk that I do, which is called Delivered, is all about pregnancy in chiropractic and how chiropractic can play a role in not only getting the bony structure of the pelvis properly aligned, but all the muscles, all the ligaments to be as calm and relaxed as possible so that baby can get in the most optimal position to be putting as less stress on that baby as possible. And hopefully that position is going to be the best possible position, head down, for the birthing process. So if baby can't get into the correct position, that is stressful on baby. That can start us off. So again, stress breeds stress. So now if baby can't get in the right position, that may make us more susceptible to doing something like a C-section, which is another intervention which can cause, is birth trauma. The forceps, the vacuum, too quickly, not quick enough, a little late, having complications. All of these are interventions that can cause this process. Cranial malposition. So we understand babies have soft spots. In these soft spots, so as baby is coming out, if the head is touched in any way, shape, or form, putting the hands on either side of the baby to help kind of turn baby to get baby out. C-section, the vacuum, the grips, you'll see sometimes baby comes out and they joke around like, oh, they had from the vacuum. So we understand soft spots because the bones of the skull have to come together. But what if those bones of the skull don't come together the way that they should? If they don't come together the way that they should, now something has to compensate. Bones didn't go how they should have, which means the apex can be affected. The jaw can be affected. So cranial malpositions, this is going to affect things like the vagus nerve, who we're going to touch on a lot here in a little bit. Vagus nerve originates right here. This can be affected by that. That can be causing the colic and the reflux. It can also affect the trigeminal nerve. So now things like rooting, sucking, now they're having hard problems latching. This is stressful to a baby because, again, what are they supposed to be doing? Eating, sleeping, pooping. Now they can't even do that. Causing sleeping, irritable issues if they can't latch appropriately. Now we're maybe getting too much air and now we're having the acid reflux. Torticollis. If this is upset in any way, shape, or form, these don't come together. These bones get out of place. Now muscles are going to be activated too much, and babies' necks are actually going to be bent like this. Do you think that this is an optimum way for a baby's brain to be developing if a baby's head, the writing reflex, eyes can't even find the horizon and stay level with it? No, this is not optimal. So my next slide, I'm looking at my notes just to make sure I can warn you about. Yes. Okay, next slide I'm pretty sure is C-section video. So with C-section video, it's not that gruesome, don't worry. But what I want you to pay attention to, and I hope that you can hear it, is not only watch what's happening in this video, but I want you to also listen to what's happening. Listen to the dialogue of the doctors, the nurses, things like that. I want you to hear what they're saying.
Getting irritated.
Oh, there you go, little fella.
Come on, buddy.
Ears of a girl. Ears of a girl.
Make you cute for the camera.
Oh, man. Keep coming back. You did good.
There he goes.
Okay, that was a routine, normal C-section. Okay, that was scheduled, that on the chart for that C-section, it was put down, everything went according to plan. Perfect. Okay, what did you hear in that video? Did you hear anybody go, you're holding that baby by its head, what are you doing? No, you heard whistling, joking around, we're gonna get you pretty for the camera and things like that. Nobody in this room batted an eye, but that baby was just not only the vacuum, but then hard right, hard left, extracted out of mom, held by the head. Now, if I come in 10 minutes, I picked up that baby by its head and walked it over to mom, everybody would lose their mind. But that is how a lot of babies are coming into the world. The most common area that is injured during the delivery process, apex of the spine, the top two bones. Take me to my picture. Okay, where are his fingers at on that video section? Right there at the apex. Why is this area such an important area? That area is an important area because that is where your brainstem sits. The brainstem sits right at the level of 1 and 2. What does the brainstem control? The brainstem controls everything. Every single function within your body. Think of the systems, the digestive system, respiratory, lymphatic, reproductive. All of that is under the direct control of your brainstem. So your entire autonomic nervous system. When we named it, we thought it worked automatically. Just kind of, it's there, it exists, so we named it autonomic. Later, we would find out that it is actually the direct control of the brainstem that controls every single one of those functions. So when two cells come together, sperm and egg, what is the very first thing that develops? It's the brainstem. From the brainstem, you're going to get the brain, your frontal, your cortex, your parietal, temporal, and then the spinal cord is going to go down from there. But the very first thing that develops is the brainstem. It is the number one most important aspect of everything. So now, during the delivery process, if the apex is the number one thing that is damaged, you are affecting the brainstem right from its source, right from that circuit breaker. So C-section rates. Back in the day, C-sections were done because of why they were developed in the first place. C-sections came about because somebody's life was in danger. We need to either save mom's life or save baby's life. Now C-sections are used more for doctors going out of town. You might be on vacation, so it'd be better to schedule it this week than next. I mean, I've even heard people scheduling a C-section before the year is up just for tax purposes. That is not why C-sections were made, and people need to realize that having a C-section has complications. This obviously being the biggest one, but there's many different reasons why we should try to have a baby naturally. But I'm going to save that for my Deliver talk. Please follow us on Facebook. You'll see when we're doing those talks, but that is a whole other conversation. We do a whole other lecture on that. But C-section rates are going up. But a lot of people go, because it was a C-section, it was completely normal and it was completely safe. Nothing bad can happen because they're controlling every single aspect of that. Well, in the video that I just showed you, that was a routine scheduled C-section. So after that C-section, the doctor that delivered that baby, what does he have left to do? What involvement does he really have to do in this child's life anymore at this point? Nothing. Routine, everything went off without a hitch, great, goes in the chart. Now the pediatrician's going to get that chart and go back through it and go, okay, he had a C-section, but everything was normal. Everything was fine. But now he's trying to figure out, well, why are we having these acid reflux? Why are we having this? Why are we having that? He didn't watch how that baby came into the world. Everything, this whole team is now removed from that child, and they kind of go over onto this. So just because you had a C-section does not, it wasn't a major intervention that could have played a part into some of these things. So this was a study done in 99 out of 100 infants. At least one had a pattern of subluxation. We're going to get to subluxation here in a minute, but right now, instead of subluxation, think of the first D word that we went over, dyskinesia. So, and again, these were 99 out of 100 infants. These were all kids that they deemed asymptomatic. So they got a whole group of people, babies, and they said, these kids, there is nothing glaringly wrong with these children. These are the ones that we're going to look at. And they still found 99 out of 100 had some form of dyskinesia from that birthing process. So here's a bunch of lists of references. I can get you any of these if you want to screenshot it. I know you don't have time to write it down, but I can get you any of this info if you need me to. Just send me an email and I will shoot you over any of this. So now we're going to go into our second D word, disafferentation. So disafferentation is abnormal input. So it starts off with dyskinesia, misalignment, and a fixation. But what does that cause? Again, motor problems lead to brain development problems. So disafferentation, afferentation is info going in. So this is dis, bad info going in. So it's abnormal input. Proprioception. Proprioception is the good info that is going into the brain. Proprioception, the brain loves it. Again, I said motion, movement calms the brain down. The brain is constantly, most of what the brain is doing is trying to deal with movement, perceived movement. The brain spends a lot of time on movement. Proprioception is good info going into the brain. The flip side of that coin is nociception. Nociception is when we don't have good movement, so we don't have good info going into the brain, we have bad info going to the brain. So proprioception, good. Nociception, noise. So if I have dyskinesia, a misalignment and a fixation is going to make my brain unhappy because he's not getting enough proprioception. Now he's getting too much nociception. So this is why movement therapy is so good on a lot of these kids with sensory issues, because the brain is constantly trying to calm itself down from movement. So a lot of these kids benefit from a lot of play, a lot of movement, and things like that, because the brain is calming itself with this good proprioception going in. You know, sometimes you'll hear people go, I did yoga for the first time and I just mentally feel better. The reason they feel better is because they got up, they got moving, they moved their spine in a way that they really haven't done it in the past, which got good proprioception going into the brain, and the brain went, I love this, it calms me down. These people have more of a relaxing feeling after that. I am taking and following my notes, just make sure I don't miss anything, but also to kind of keep me from going off on a huge tangent. So if you see me looking down here, trying to make sure I don't go off the rails and keep you for an hour and a half type of a deal. So disafferentation, abnormal input. We're going to revisit this one. So don't forget my first D word, dyskinesia, misalignment, fixation leads to brain not being happy because now we don't have good info going into the brain. Now we have bad info going to the brain. Next up, my Pampers commercial, which means I have to do a new share. Should I stop? No, I'm going to go stop share. And then we're going to do new share. I want to take you over to the Pampers commercial. Sharing is pause. Bring your share front to the window. What do you mean? Okay, I really hope you can see that one. It says you should be able to. Chat, let me know. Can you see the Pampers commercial? I just got a weird message on mine. Chat, good to go. All right, watch this video. I hope this isn't in your way. Drag me somewhere. Okay, watch this video. It's only 30 seconds.
They're all going in the same direction, but in very different ways. And Pampers gives all of them our driest, best-fitting diaper. Pampers Cruisers with 3-way fit. Not only with up to 12 hours of protection, they adapt at the waist, legs, and bottom.
Okay.
For all the freedom to move their
All
way
the kids that you saw
in Pampers' best diaper. It's time to play.
had the issue. Why am I even showing you that video? Which kid, moving wise, that was all about kids are getting around. They're going to get there however they can. Which kiddo in that video do you think is the one that I'm looking at going, I see a problem there? Anybody? Come on, chat. Come on, chat. Nobody's going to guess? Yeah. The butt scooter, right? 80% of the time when you see a kiddo that is a butt scooter, 80% of the time that is a neurological issue. So if the brain doesn't get enough motion, enough movement going into it, motor issues eventually lead to neuro issues. So it's like building a pyramid. You have to set the foundation before you do this stage, this stage, this stage, and this stage. If the brain isn't getting the right info, if the brain neurologically is imbalanced, we're not going to be hitting the milestones that we are. When we see a butt scooter, that is 80% of the time an indication that a milestone didn't get hit because they're not doing this cross crawl pattern. So it shouldn't be a surprise that if you took a baby and you didn't let the baby move its arms and legs, they were never able to move their extremities, the brain wouldn't develop appropriately. When you have dyskinesia leading to disafferentation, the brain is still going to be affected in a similar motion that we're not going to hit these milestones appropriately, and that starts us off on this perfect storm journey. So when we see kiddos, and I mean, that was just put in the video just because they thought it was cute, that they thought it was funny, but 80% of the time that is a neurological issue that kid is not hitting milestones the way that they were supposed to. So let's now stop share that. And we're going to go back to PowerPoint. Drag me away. Okay. Yeah, it's fine up there. All right,
Some kids are really bouncy and can't sit still. Some kids aren't very coordinated. Some see food as a pile of toxic goo that hurts their mouth and jangles their taste buds. School might be a mysterious place where things don't make much sense. If this sounds like you may have sensory processing disorder, and we're going to explain it here. Your body has 7 senses: vision in your eyes, hearing in your ears, touch in your skin, taste in your mouth, and smell in your nose. And you have 2 movement senses: your muscles and your sense of balance. In sensory processing disorder, these senses don't communicate right with your brain. Think of the nerves connecting your brain and senses as a set of roads. Those roads should be smooth superhighways so that the senses and brain can communicate fast. If you have sensory processing disorder, then some of your roads are bumpy and rough. You can also think of the senses as having a broken volume control. If the volume is too high, you will feel your senses too strongly. If the volume is too low, you won't feel sensation at all. In fact, you'll want more. Some kids overcome these problems as they grow older. Others need help. Help is usually occupational therapy, and it's fun. Occupational therapy helps build up the connections between your senses and your brain. The more you do, the stronger and smoother they get, kind of like paving those roads. After a while, you'll learn to slow down and sit still, to pay attention, to eat,
All right, get the point,
to be
right?
comfortable and happy.
So, good little video, sensory processing issues. So, proprioception, perception of movement. Again, the brain spends an incredible amount of its energy constantly perceiving motion. 60% of all proprioception that goes to the brain is derived from its spinal column. Of that 60%, 33% comes from the apex of the spine alone. So when these kids' brains are so stressed out, the brain wants to calm that down. This is why these kids crave movement. sometimes these kids are just like bouncing off the walls, sitting in their seats, just kind of like bouncing. It's because the brain is constantly trying to get proprioception, almost like an overcompensation to try to calm itself. So maybe you've seen kids that have actually developed like neurological tics. So there's certain areas that are very, very packed with mechanoreceptors. A ton of mechanoreceptors are right here at the top of the neck. So sometimes when you see children, they kind of develop these tic type things. I actually just had a few months back, I had a patient who brought his kid in because he developed a neurological tic shortly after spending a lot of time playing the video game Fortnite. So video games are very stimulating. So sympathetics, go, 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 go. So he was doing this so much that his brain was so stressed out from this over sympathetic go, 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 that he actually developed a tic. The body is trying to overcompensate and get these muscle fibers, these mechanoreceptors, to fire to try to get proprioception going to the brain. Because right now, if you're just so stressed, brain, nociception, noise, 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 the body's trying to calm some of that noise, calm some of that down by getting some proprioception in there. How to do that? Let's get these mechanoreceptors firing so we can actually develop a tic because of that. The jaw is another area that is packed with mechanoreceptors. So sometimes, remember these old pens, these Bic pens type thing? You'll see kids that will just like chew these off in an hour in class, or constantly like gnawing and biting on things. Again, the brain trying to get proprioception going to that brain by getting those mechanoreceptors firing. Other area that's very high in that is hands and feet. So if you've ever seen like an autistic child where they're shaking their hands, or they'll take their fingers and they'll do something like this, we call it stimming. Again, it's trying to stimulate areas that are packed with mechanoreceptors, getting proprioception through that brain. The toes are way more sensitive than the heels. So sometimes you'll see kids that are constantly walking up on their toes. Same thing, the brain just trying to get proprioception, proprioception, proprioception. So talked about this earlier, and I said, think of subluxation as just dyskinesia. Subluxation is stress stuck on. So dyskinesia leads to disafferentation, leads to dysautonomia. Stress, stress, stress. So subluxation is a stress issue. And what we are trying to do here in this office is bring balance back down to this stress. So that stress is stuck on. So we are going to have to dive into a little bit more neurology, so bear with me. Stress, stress, stress. Your sympathetics is your fight or flight response. So sympathetic, parasympathetic. Maybe like 7th grade science you heard of fight or flight, rest and digest. So that is sympathetic, parasympathetic. What is sympathetic and parasympathetic? What does that make up? That makes up the autonomic nervous system. When I told you earlier, autonomic nervous system, we originally named it because we thought it worked automatically. Everything that you don't have to think about, all of your systems, is the autonomic's job to control that. Well, later we would find out that the autonomic nervous system is directly controlled by the brainstem. And where does the brainstem sit? The apex of the spine. So if this isn't happy and this top bone gets out of place, misaligns, and gets stuck there, now you have dyskinesia. What is that going to cause in this pathway? That is very, very stressful on the body when its spine doesn't move appropriately. So again, what's going to happen? Your sympathetics are going to go up. Now, if you were out in the wilderness and a bear showed up, that should happen, right? Sympathetic should go up, your fight or flight response, go, 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 get out of danger. When bear goes away, what should happen? It should balance back out. A completely different part of your nervous system is engaged when you're running from a bear than if you're just sitting on the couch eating food. So the problem with dyskinesia, or subluxation as we're now going to call it, is your sympathetics go up, but now sympathetics stay there, which means everything. You are constantly living in this state of stress, stuck. Think of gas pedal, right? Gas pedal, foot to the floor, go, 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 go. Everything, all stress responses, stress hormones, whether it's epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, are constantly just go, go, go. Things do not work appropriately if they're constantly working under a state of stress, stress, stress. And if this starts off during that birthing process, getting this out of place, and your sympathetics are now running the show as a 1 hour old, now we start that perfect storm of systems don't work appropriately when they're working here, which means over time they start to work inappropriately. And what does inappropriate look like over time? Starts to look like what we call symptoms. So regardless of what symptom we're talking about, we are looking at, is the gas pedal, foot to the floor, go, 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 and how can we start tapping that brake pedal, getting us down from 1,000 miles an hour down to something like this. So subluxation is stress stuck on, which is an imbalance within that nervous system. Dysautonomia. So dysautonomia is what I just said. We have dyskinesia, things don't move right and they're stuck. Disafferentations, now we've got bad info going into the brain, which means we have an imbalance between our autonomic nervous system, dysautonomia, which is sympathetic, parasympathetic. We call it sympathetic dominance. Your sympathetic nervous system is running the show, and you are now perceiving, what's the job of the nervous system? Perceive the environment, tell everybody what to do, make them do it. If you are now perceiving the environment from a state of fight or flight, are things going to get the right information to behave the way that they should? No, they're being told to behave and act in a way that is constantly fight or flight mode, fight or flight mode, fight or flight mode. And we wonder why these kids have all these sensory behavioral issues, because they're coming at life here. Bruce Lipton, I already told you, I love his quotes. This is my favorite one, by the way. You can't be in growth and protection at the same time. What is protection mode? Sympathetic mode, stress mode, gas pedal mode. What is growth mode? Parasympathetic, vagus nerve, brake pedal. If you're living here, do things just not work? No, the body is fantastic at adapting, but it can only adapt for so long. At the end of the day, it's trying to adapt matter, and matter has limitations. You can't be in growth and protection at the same time. And so many of these kiddos are living their life here, sympathetic dominant, go, 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 go. So my chiropractic fuse box, I know this is probably hard to see, but all those little check mark boxes there on the right, those are symptoms. When I analyze in my office, I want to know that information, but at the end of the day, that is how a body is behaving, not necessarily what you just need to make a way to bring health back. I want to look at that side and go, if that is how that body is behaving, what isn't working appropriately? Where does this get its information from? How balanced are we? Because it's all about how well do we function. If things function appropriately and we don't have one system dominating the other, if things function appropriately, they should be behaving appropriately. So this is information that I collect in my office, but what most people think of as chiropractic is neck pain, back pain, headache, and the old school bone on nerve. You know, this bone got out of place and now it's pinching that nerve, and it's kind of like the fuse box type of a thing. Is now the brain can't send the right signals out through that nerve to talk to where it goes. Yeah, but bigger picture is the body doesn't like it when its spine doesn't move. Dyskinesia leads to disafferentation, which leads to dysautonomia. Any subluxation within the spine can cause any one of those check mark boxes. But what is the number one most important one? Apex. What is the number one most important one on our kiddos? Apex. Number one damaged in the birthing process. And what sits right here? Brainstem. What is brainstem control? Autonomic nervous system, which is your sympathetic, parasympathetic. I think that's about as much nerdiness that we're going to get on our neurology. I hope you got that. I hope you're okay. So at the end of the day, what is the subluxation then? Stress stuck on, but really it's a sensory issue. The body cannot perceive the world appropriately because it is perceiving everything from the lens of fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight. If you are already at an 8 out of 10 internally, it doesn't take much to go to 10 out of 10. And if you're 1.5 years old, what does that look like for you? We call them meltdowns, tantrums, acting out. If you got a kiddo who's already at an 8 out of 10 internally because of that whole process, that perfect storm cascade, now you take them into public. Cash register, conversation, fire truck just went by. Inside, the brain's going, I am already stressed out. I'm already 8 out of 10. I cannot handle all of this. So what does it do? Acts the only way that it knows how. Brain, meltdowns, tantrums, whatever it may be. Adults don't do that. Adults have been on planet Earth long enough. We know that we can't just lay down in the middle of Target and freak out. But it does, living under a state of constant stress leads to more stress. And on that sheet that I showed you, my fuse box, I see all the time high anxiety, high stress, depression. It takes a lot of energy to be living under a state of go, 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 go. We see that all the time in our adults. The good news is, I'll leave this slide up for a little bit so you can write any of this down. So at this point, people go, okay, so yep, I had a traumatic birth. We had to do the grips to get him out, and then he was in NICU. I didn't get to hold him for 3 days. We didn't have any skin on skin. He didn't latch appropriately. Then we had this, then we had that. My kid has clearly been under a perfect storm since probably day one. Is it too late? He's already 4, 5, 6, whatever it may be. The good news is no. These are two fantastic books. Without, again, I already told you we're kind of done nerding out, but I don't want to get into neuroplasticity and things like that, but the brain can change itself. If you can bring balance back to the system, the brain can reconnect a lot of these things. Now, again, is it going to go from 0 to 100 change-wise? No. But anything that we can get to change the brain, the body, is going to be a whole lot better off. So I would encourage you to grab both of these two books, same author, obviously, The Brain That Changes Itself and The Brain's Way of Healing. If we can start with a kiddo that is 3 years old, are we way ahead of the game than starting with a kiddo in this perfect storm that is 17, 18 years old? You bet. The more early in life that we can get when the brain is trying to hit those milestones anyway, and we can help it change during that process, is going to be a lot more beneficial, and we're going to see a lot better results and a lot quicker results than if we're starting with an 18, 19, 20, 25-year-old, because the brain is a little bit more set in its ways at then. So obviously the earlier the better, but no, the brain can absolutely heal, and it absolutely can change itself. So those are two fantastic books for you. So now, what is the perfect storm? A little bit more in depth, where it all started. Difficulty conceiving, again, a challenged pregnancy, which might lead to a traumatic birth. Now we're having the poor latching, the nursing issues, which is stressful to baby, which leads to the crying, the poor sleep. Maybe we have torticollis, stress breeds stress. Cranial malpositions, now we're having TMJ issues, now more nursing, more latching issues. The colic, the reflux, the constipation, now we're having a ton of ear infections. 95% of all kids in the United States have had an ear infection, at least one. Now we're having early behavioral issues, our 4 A's. So another very good book. What are the 4 A's? Healing the New Childhood Epidemic. Autism, ADHD, asthma, allergies. And somebody talking. What if nothing was traumatic from the beginning? That would be during the consultation. We would have to dive a lot deeper. So again, without getting too much into it, because then you would need to know your specific case, certain things like that C-section, that mom that had that C-section on paper, and what she was told in that room was, yep, everything went great. Okay, how great? There's a lot of things that could be an intervention that maybe we didn't think about. Now, could you have had a completely normal pregnancy and then kids being kids, you know, fall off of a bed, landed on their head when you were downstairs doing dishes, and you just heard like, hey, what the heck was that? And, oh, Joey fell off the bed, but he's fine. Yeah, he seems fine, but maybe he locked that up and he started that dyskinesia, but he's not really, you know, yeah, he hit his head, but he's not crying. He's not. So there's a lot of different things that can lead into this, and this would all come about where we talk in the consultation and things like that. But I'm going to get to here in a minute. If nothing traumatic was from the beginning, that doesn't mean that something is not right. But what you'll see is how we analyze in this office and the tools that we use is we don't need to know exactly what happened, because I can still see from my scanning software what exactly is going on, how unbalanced this nervous system is, and therefore what I need to do. So fantastic question. That can be sometimes really, really easy to find out. Okay, we definitely know that it happened here because look at what happened. Or it's a complete mystery because it seems like we did everything right. Nothing was weird. I can't possibly think of where my kid entered the perfect storm, but here we are. What the hell is going on? Do we need that information at the end of the day? It's nice to have, but if I can at least get a scan on this kiddo and see what their nervous system is doing, I don't need to know anything more than that, because I go, all right, here's what his nervous system is. Here's how it's presenting. This is what I need to do. So great question. We could talk more about that in a consultation, because that can be a little tricky to find out. Fire truck's going by. I don't know if you can hear that. Autism, ADHD, asthma, allergies. Healing the new childhood epidemic. How many kids do you know fall into the category of having one of these, right? So another really, really good book. Dyskinesia. Already touched on this one, but we made a slide for it. Abnormal energy output. So if I am unbalanced, sympathetic, running the show, and again, you are looking, your little one, your kiddo is looking at life from the lens of fight or flight, the job of the nervous system, perceive the environment, figure out what needs to be doing what, and then make them do that. Well, if you're not doing that appropriately because you're not getting good info in, what are you going to get? You're going to get bad info out. So dyskinesia is actually an abnormal energy output. Vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is your number one nerve, your number one brake pedal, if you will. So if the sympathetics is your gas pedal, go, 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 what do we want to do? Start tapping that brake. A huge brake pedal for us is the vagus nerve. Where does the vagus nerve originate? Surprise, surprise, brainstem, right here at the apex. So vagus means wandering. The vagus nerve leaves the brainstem, and then as you can see in this picture, pretty much goes right down into the gut. So we used to think that the vagus nerve mostly had things to do with like digestive issues and things like that, but we just keep finding stuff that the vagus nerve does. You can go on YouTube and actually just look up the vagus nerve, polyvagal theory, things like that, and you will just be blown away by hours of videos of people just talking about how important the health of this nerve is. So vagus means wandering. He leaves, goes right down into the gut. Now we know that the vagus nerve has way more to do with your immunity than we ever thought. So how healthy, how often you get sick is directly related to the health of this vagus nerve. We actually now know that how compassionate of a person you are is directly related to the vagus nerve. I could probably do an entire webinar on the vagus nerve alone. So we're not going to do that right now because there's way more to get into. But if you're curious about that, get onto YouTube and just look up the vagus nerve and all the things that come up. It's a fascinating nerve. He is the number one for calming. So if we can get the apex of the spine happy, we can get pressure off of that vagus nerve. We can get good stimulation to that vagus nerve. That is our biggest brake pedal. The vagus nerve, though, is also the number one nerve that is most susceptible to toxins. So sometimes it's like, hey, nothing's going on. We didn't have any traumatic birth. We didn't have any, but maybe something happened where, you know, kids don't eat well, you know, the red dye 40s. So we could get all into the toxicity side of things. The vagus nerve is going to be directly impacted by a lot of the toxicities that we're just have to deal with by even being on planet Earth and pollution and things like that. The vagus nerve is going to take its toll by those toxicities because he is the number one most susceptible to them. So vagus nerve is very, very important and a huge thing in what we do here in this office. So this is a paper written, sensory processing disorders and the parasympathetic, so not sympathetic, parasympathetic, your brake pedal, and they say parasympathetic / vagus system. So the vagus nerve is, again, your biggest brake pedal, part of your parasympathetics. What they did in this is actually they took heart rate variability, which is how you measure, not the only way, but a good way to measure the balance of sympathetic and parasympathetic, really see which one's running the show. And they took 3 different groups, kids that they said, okay, nothing seems to be going on with these groups. This group definitely has something going on. This group is more like you're highly autistic. And what they did is they put them through a series of tests that was designed to drain the battery. So if this group over here, sympathetics are already through the roof, now we're going to put them to what would be like a day's work of activating that even more and seeing how quickly it actually drained them. So they went through these tests. First, they did heart rate variability to kind of see where everybody was. Then they did a test to kind of get the sympathetics really overly firing. Then they did heart rate variability again to see where they tracked. And the group that already had sensory issues completely tanked on it because, again, if you're already at an 8 out of 10, it doesn't take much to get to 10 out of 10, and it just completely tanked. So this is sensory processing, going over specifically the vagus nerve and the health of that. So my scans and my outcomes. One of the things that we do with these little ones, so I told you earlier, basically with the Pampers, the butt scooter, when things don't move right, the brain doesn't get its right information, you don't hit certain milestones. So there's things called primitive reflexes that you can actually check on kids and even adults and see, are these things still here? Are there things that should have gone away that maybe are not gone away, and that can lead you to, okay, the brain didn't hit a certain milestone when it should have? One way that we analyze kiddos, even adults in this office, to kind of see what that nervous system is doing. So this is a really good sheet to kind of show what age kids should be doing what, and if things are not progressing the way that they should, reflexes are still hanging around that maybe should have gone away. This is one way that we can check all of that. So that is one thing that we use in our office. Let's just run through these because I want to get to the scans. Almost at my hour. I'm already at my hour. So my perfect storm types: raging bull, drunken bull, and then a combination between the two, your raging, drunken bulls. So raging bull is, again, those sympathetics are just go, 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 go. Kids bouncing off the wall, can hardly sit still. The drunken bull is, it's still sympathetics running the show, but it has been running the show so long that their nervous system is now incredibly drained as a result. So the best way I can explain it to you is a smoke detector in your house. There's a fire. The smoke detector started going off really, really loud, trying to tell you, hey, there's a problem. But because that fire never got put out, that smoke detector, the batteries are now starting to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And over time, that smoke detector is now not screaming at you. Now it's this really low, dull, waning sound that you can barely hear anymore. It's still going off, but the batteries have been drained so much that it can't even really alert you that things are going on. So that is your drunken bull. Most common, though, is a combination between the two. Let's go over the scans. So earlier I was saying, is it helpful to know when or what or how long things have been going on? Of course. Do I absolutely need that information now? I don't. What I have in my office is something called neurological scans. It's a core score, insight, subluxation station, and it's made up of 3 parts: heart rate variability, which I already talked about, thermal, and an EMG. All 3 of these combined really gives me a deep insight as to what this nervous system is doing. Therefore, how wound up is it, who's running the show, and what do I need to do? So it takes a whole lot of the subjective. You know, my kiddo is experiencing this. This is how they're behaving. This is what they can. This is what they can't do. But now I can take that subjective and match it with objective, actual numbers that I can track as I'm moving through to see, am I actually making changes to what this nervous system is doing? Because if I'm making changes to the nervous system and bringing balance back to it, do I want symptoms to go away? Do I want things to change? Yeah, but I only want this to change because positively influencing and changing the nervous system. If I make a whole bunch of symptoms go away, but then I have a scan that still isn't that great, I'm not that happy. I am happy because all of these things affect your life, and it's great that they're no longer affecting your life. But if I don't make changes from a scan standpoint and actually can see the nervous system actually changed, I know anything that I got over here is going to be temporary because I didn't change you from a neurological standpoint. Your nervous system is still scanning in a way that has already shown me that it can present this way. Anything I got over here is going to be temporary. So now let's dive into some of these scans and what they look like. So this is a 3-year-old, sensory anxiety. This is a rolling thermal. So green, we want to be seeing whites. Now again, I'm overly simplifying this big time. It is not as simple as whites, yay, red, boo. We don't want reds. Yeah, but it is way more complicated than that. We're not going to get into it. For simplicity's sake right now, let's just go whites is what we want. Green is a mild or a +1. Blue, moderate, +2. Red is severe, at least 3 deviations from normal, what we should be experiencing. So what lights up on this little one? Apex of the spine. See how we're C1, C2, one side, the other side? That tells me there's a lot of rotation taking place in that apex. They should not be scanning that differently, 2 bones apart, in a difference in heat from one side of the body compared to the other. So when I see that, already I know we got an apex, we got a twisted upper cervical spine that we need to get corrected. 16-month-old, same thing. You can see thermal on the left, my EMG on the right. So thermal, what lights up? Apex of the spine. Now the EMG is actually measuring how much energy is going to the muscles. How much energy do these muscles demand? So we are red all the way through until we get down to about T12, and then we got another red down here at the bottom at S1, but nothing but red all the way through from C1 all the way to T10. If this is how much energy the muscles are demanding, is this 16-month-old in pain? You don't have to put it in the chat. I'm just going to jump right to it. No, the 16-month-old is not experiencing pain at all. But when I see this, what do I see? I see muscles that are living under a state of, hey, we're about to run or fight at any given moment, 24/7, we're here. So we need a lot of energy because we need to be ready, primed, ready to go at a moment's notice. So they're constantly just going, give us energy because any minute, run or fight. That's what we're constantly prepared to do. So then I see on that EMG a 16-month-old that is scanning just 3 deviations from normal at half of her spine. It's because these muscles are just go, go, go. We're ready, we're ready, we're ready. What does that mean to me? Sympathetics, running the show. Go, 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 go. Here's a 7-year-old with sensory issues. Going back to the comment earlier, no birth injury at all. Parents were like, no, it went perfectly, everything that we wanted to happen, but yet we're still having these issues. Could the 7-year-old have, fallen off of a table at 6 months or done so? Could have. It doesn't necessarily have to be during the birthing process. It could be some other type of an injury, some other type of an accident, whatever it may be. But on the left here, the first set of scans, this is heart rate variability. I don't know if you can see my mouse clicker that well. So the green box, that is where we want to see this white box. That white box is the patient. When this white box falls out of the green, it is because we do not have good balance between sympathetic, parasympathetic, okay? We want to be seeing that white box scan right up into here. Good balance between the two. So started it off, that white box way down in the bottom. This is going to be more of your drunken bull because it's dragging that white box all the way down into this lower left quadrant, which usually means the sympathetics have been running the show for so long that the batteries are now completely drained. It's a cell phone that gets charged to 100% every night, but by 10 a.m. you're already down at 30%. Draining that battery. Here's his re-exam. Climbed it big time. Climbed it big time. Autonomic index is basically the numbers out here on the left. He was all the way down to the 7.2, got him up to an 83.42. So we're not yet into that white, but we really climbed it up. EMG, how much energy is going to the muscles? And you can see so much energy going here, right in that mid-thoracic region, so much sympathetics. So again, woke some things up, got some new areas that are yelling at us now, but we really broke the pattern that was this. So I guess I can tell you right now, one of the biggest things that I see problem-wise with chiropractic and little ones, your sensory, because I'll get parents that'll be like, well, we did a chiropractor before and I didn't really see much change. Either A, the care plans was terrible because the doc is still under that mindset of, oh, it's a child. They're, bring them in every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. We'll just kind of adjust them. They're little. They're not going to need a lot. That is not the case with sensory issues. Some people are here. Some people are here. Some people are up here. One of the biggest downfalls I see is the care plan wasn't an appropriate care plan to actually break the pattern of what these sympathetics are doing. Now, I'm not saying it's like 100 visits for 3 months. I'm not saying that at all. I have no idea what it needs to be. But my biggest problem that I see in the pediatric side of things are kids are actually under-adjusted. They're not adjusted enough to actually break that pattern. It's like braces on teeth. You don't put them on for a week and then take them off and expect those teeth to stay there. And if you're here, you really got to break that pattern, and every adjustment builds off of the last one. So one of the biggest things that I see is care plans are pretty shitty. Just call it what it is. They're pretty weak. The second one that I see is it's not a methodical, appropriate approach on the analysis of these scans, or might not even be doing these scans. So what we don't want to do for these kiddos is just lay them down on the table and hit high spots, right? This feels out, let's move this. This feels out, let's move this. If I got a kid that's sensory, ADD, HD, sensory processing, and I know that those sympathetics are running the show, there are certain areas of the spine that I'm going to adjust and correct first before I get to other areas, even though I see that there are problem areas on my scans. So again, I already told you I'm not going to take you too much deeper into the nervous system, but there are parts of the nervous system that are more parasympathetic. There are parts, or I should say, there are parts of the spinal column that are more sympathetic, and there are parts of the spinal column that are more parasympathetic. If your kiddo is already gas pedal foot to the floor going 180, yeah, there are certain areas of the spine that I need to address, but I can't address these areas because I am going to further stress out that system. If I'm already going at 180, I need to tap this brake pedal and get us maybe down to 50, 60 miles an hour before I address other areas of the spine because I know I'm going to stress it out. It's an appropriate stressor. I need to do it, But I don't want to send us into a tailspin by going, well, I'm going to hit this area. We're already going 180. No, I want to tap that brake pedal and be very specific on what I'm adjusting to kind of break us out of that pattern before I start doing some of the other things. So A, care plans might be terrible. B, we're just kind of putting the table down and treating this little one like an adult and just going, this feels out, let's move this. This feels out, let's move this. You've got to be more methodical on your approach to these kiddos if you're trying to actually break that pattern. That's why we do these scans. There are parts of the spine that you need to do first. There are parts of the spine that might be an issue, but you got to put on the back burner until you can kind of break that pattern and get us out of that gas pedal, start tapping that brake. So again, more sensory scans. This is my EMG. As you can see here, lighting right up at T10. This is a lot to do with the adrenals. Total energy of over 210. Get more into that during a consultation. So again, that same one here on the left, most recent one here on the right. We start to get rid of a lot of those reds, really start calming it down, and we went from a total energy of 210 all the way down to a 123. So really, really good stuff there. So the most common things that we see, we're trying to calm that nervous system by bringing better balance back to the nervous system so that the nervous system can do what it was designed to do, and that is perceive the world, decide who needs to be doing what, and then make them do that, reconnecting that brain to the body so that we can get good coordination of all of the cells and things start working the way that they were designed to work. So action steps, ask questions. So normally if you were here, I would walk you into my exam room. We would go over the scans. So all those scans that I just showed you, we have that technology here in this office that we would actually show you what all these things is. It's nothing crazy. It doesn't poke you. It doesn't prod you. It tickles. It's kind of cold, things like that. So that would be our next thing is, A, does your kid have a subluxation? The only way to know that for sure is, yeah, we got to talk to you. I want to know about the birthing process. I want to know about delivery. I want to know about all of these things. But at the end of the day, we need to take that information and mirror it with the scan so we can actually see what this nervous system is doing and what action steps we need to take as far as care plan goes to get this kiddo to where they need to be. So we need to reduce the stress within that system. The only way to know exactly without any guesswork is getting your kiddo scanned. So because you're watching this webinar, we would give you a discount on that scan. So you would get our VIP card. Do I have one? I don't have one lying around, but you would get a discount on your neurological scan for your kiddo. For the consultation, some parents are like, the thought of bringing my kid into an office and talking for 20 minutes while they're over here just tearing your office apart, or they're doing this or they're doing that. We always offer phone consults. So if we want to call, talk on the phone, get all the information, the back end info, we'll talk about the pregnancy, we'll talk about delivery. So that then when we schedule for the exam, kiddo's just coming in, beating me, and we're kind of jumping right to it. So there's not a lot of downtime. We 100% can do that. So that would be your next step, is to figuring out what is actually going on with this kiddo from a neurological standpoint, because the scans dictate everything that we do here in this office. Because if you don't get a good set of scan on a kiddo, you're pretty much just playing guesswork, putting a kid down on the table, hitting high spots, and we don't want to do that. We want to know who's running the show, what has their nervous system been doing, how long has it been doing this based off of those scans, and putting that kid onto a good plan of action to actually take care of that. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the perfect storm. I hope you enjoyed it. Your next step would be, get a hold of me. Let's get on the phone. Let's talk. Let's get those kiddos in here, get them scanned up. Again, you would get a discount on your scan. So I will be sending this out to you in an email. If you need to rewatch it, go to a certain part to maybe jot down those books and things like that. But I am here. I am here to help. If you have any more questions, please email me. We would love to get those questions answered for you. And if you would like to get that consultation scheduled, please. Consultations are always complimentary. So an opportunity to come in, talk about your kiddo specifically, or maybe you're thinking like, gee, I wonder if I'm stressed out to the max right now. I got a whole bunch of those check mark boxes. Everything that I just said applies to adults as well. It's just kind of looking at it through a slightly different lens. We still do scans. We still analyze the nervous system. So we'd absolutely do that for you. So if you guys have no more questions in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and end it here, get this video saved up, and hopefully get it sent to you guys and everybody else sometime tomorrow. Look forward to seeing you. Consultations, again, are always complimentary, an opportunity for you to come on in, sit down, talk to me about little one, and then we would talk about moving forward on the exam. And if you want to do a phone consult as well, absolutely, let me know. All right, guys, take care. Hour 15, not too bad. I know I got a little late start, so hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care. Bye.